Welcome to Wavelengths, a podcast with Amphenol Broadband Solutions.
What's going on, everyone? It's Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B, and welcome to another episode of Wavelengths, an Amphenol Broadband Solutions podcast. It's a pleasure to be back in the hot seat for another episode of the show. We've got quite a few that we are going to be dropping here before the end of the year. But before we get into today's conversation, which is peering across the pond and talking shop on major trends and market movers that are shaping the broadband world in the European market. Before we get to that, let's make sure you're all caught up on previous episodes. So make sure you're heading to our website, amphenolbroadband.com. Again, that's amphenolbroadband.com. There you'll find previous episodes of the show. You'll find other resources, blogs, case studies, research, you name it. You'll also find more information about our solutions and services, of course. But for more podcast conversations and a deep dive into our roster of great guests, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just hit that subscribe button and you'll have that full catalog of previous episodes, as well as notifications when we drop new ones. All right, folks, let's jump into today's meat on the bone. Today, we're talking about Europe's fiber moment. We're going to be talking shop on standards, security. We're going to do a touch point here on multi-dwelling units, which are at the forefront of pushing for new strategic fiber deployments across the European market. Really consider this your European market primer on fiber. And we're going to be pulling at this thread for a while here, leading up to ANGA COM later in 2026. But across Europe right now, the broadband story isn't just new trenching or shiny press releases, right? The European market is going through a moment of transformation, much like the US market, just at a slightly different pace and with some different priorities. It's the less glamorous stuff, the make or break work inside buildings and at the edges of networks that are the real story right now in Europe. This is where standards, interoperability, and resilience are either turning fiber promises into real service or creating stalls, right? Roadblocks in those last 100 meters. Those are the main challenges that a lot of the European market are looking to solve right now. So today we are really drilling down on where is the European market's fiber expansion right now, right? How mature is it? What are the motivators, the projects, the industries that are driving for fiber expansion? And how should the industry respond to new technologies, pressures from the market to increase reliable service, both in terms of breadth and the quality of the existing service, right? So that's what today's guest is going to bring to the table here for us today. He's going to cut through that hype with his roots in the market that really give us an accurate pulse on the development of the broadband industry in Europe. Today, we're going to be hearing from Carsten Engelke. He's the Director of Technology at ANGA, which is the association behind ANGA COM, Europe's leading broadband exhibition and conference. It's coming up later in 2026, which gives us quite the runway here to prime our audience on all the nuances of the European market before a big deep dive, right? And a conference chock full of discussion and debate. So our guest here today, Carsten, right? He sits at the crossroads of operators, vendors, and policymakers with ANGA, right? He's watching what really ships, what quietly gets deprecated, right? Which simple test procedures unlock scale. He's got a pulse on all of it, but this is just the surface level primer here today. Let's get that European market primer with our guest, Carsten Engelke, Director of Technology at ANGA, which is, again, the association behind Europe's leading broadband show, ANGA COM. Carsten, welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having me in your great podcast. I'm really happy to be part of this well-known, famous podcast here with Amphenol Broadband. I'm really happy. Yeah, I'm feeling fine. Right now we have winter weather conditions here in Germany. We see the first snow. As you said, it's the last podcast before Christmas, and I will hope that we have everyone a peaceful Christmas.
Well, love to hear y'all are feeling the spirit of the holidays for sure. We are as well at the time of filming this. We're coming up on Thanksgiving week. So my mind's already looking at the pies and the turkey and the cranberry sauce, which I'm sure our audience is as well. Maybe by the time you hear this, you're already stuffed, and this is your nice ease back into your routine, is getting a little ABS content from our Wavelengths team. But again, Carsten, thank you for being here. Pleasure getting to source your insights here on the European market and how fiber projects, the larger fiber industry is evolving and taking charge around new technologies, new standards for connectivity and network speed, all that good stuff. So we're going to break all that down today. Today's going to be the primer, but we'll follow up with you as well throughout 2026 leading up to ANGA COM. Let's start by just getting the European upgrade in one picture, right? Where is the market here today? And let's drill in a little bit more, right? We've covered the US market quite a bit here on the show, but we need to understand, what's driving Europe's Fibre-First push right now that is unique compared to some of its Western counterparts, whether we're talking the US or even other, Western leaders, if we're looking over in Australia even. But again, I'm just looking to get that primer. What is driving Europe's fiber growth right now? What are those main market movers or technologies that you're seeing as leading the charge?
We have the same situation like across the world that the fiber optic networks came up and bring more capacity to the users and have a great quality of service, and this is a mover for fiber optic here in Europe. This is also pushed by the politicians, by the policymakers. It's an interesting time so that we have for everybody, for craftsmen, for operators, a challenge time to change the market. And the great thing is that we have a chance to build a complete new network from the scratch. It's really important, and it's a great point for everybody working in this area. And you will see that your experience from other infrastructures like HFC or DSL can be really good used in the fiber optic network. At the end, the networks itself not so different in managing the networks and building the networks, for sure.
Now, the EU is a complicated one, right? Considering you've got EU-level decision-making, but also member states with their own nuances. Now, we don't have time to dig into, all of the differences and fiber rollout and priorities in the French market versus the German market, the Spanish market, and all that good stuff, right? But let's just keep it high level here. I know the EU is actively nudging a lot of its member states toward fiber expansion, fiber upgrades. If we look at just Germany and France, for example, two leaders in the EU, they're taking slightly different roads on the details, naturally. But I'm curious, if you zoom out, what are one of those major policy shifts, standard shifts, right, that are changing operator behavior this year around fiber, right? What do those parameter shifts look like for the boots on the ground in these different member states? And how is that behavior shifting, right? What is being reprioritized or raised up on the priority list?
Thank you, Daniel. You talk about an important topic that we have the EU regulation, and one major topic is the Gigabit Infrastructure Act coming from the European Commission, and each member state in Europe is forced to bring standards to build fiber in-house solutions. And I think that is a great or an important change in the market, because everyone has to define how they can easily come to the flats in multi-dwelling units. And therefore, we have to write technical specification, technical standards, but this is not in this way that we like to find a new standard like IC or ITU standards. It's more how we can use existing standards to make the best and easiest way of building multi-dwelling unit in-home networks to reach each customer in their flat. That's an important topic. And well, when we did it in Germany, we decided to make it as easy as possible so that everyone from the practical issues can use the requirements, and that the operator not to has to change their equipment and their back office, whatever. One important topic was that we recognized that the interoperability is a major topic in all this stuff, and therefore we defined in Germany an in-building attenuation so that each operator coming along building knows when he connects this building, the last wall outlet has this special attenuation. We talked there about 2 dB at the end. That's really less, but it's important that we can do it with this kind of network. When you compare it with HFC, it was 40 dB, and there you see the change in technology, that 2 dB versus 40 dB is much attenuation in between. Important is at the end that we bring across Europe everything in line, and that was the reason why we said in Germany that we will follow all the international standards like IEC and other standards for fiber optical equipment. That's the importance.
All right, Carsten, let's dig into some specific trends now in the European market that I know are driving a lot of change, whether that is, change around fiber deployment priorities, upgrade priorities, right? And that would be the MDU, the multi-dwelling unit. This is also a perfect microcosm of some of the challenges and opportunities too around that last 100 meters of network service, right? Perfecting that last 100 meters for speed, for optimal performance. So tell us a little bit about how this specific market, right, deploying fiber to support the connectivity needs of the multi-dwelling unit in Europe today, how is that shaping a lot of the pressures around new deployments, new operability standards, network speed standards? What kind of pressure is this placing on the industry, and how are they responding?
I think the biggest pressure to the industry is the customer itself. We have to explain to each customer across Europe to connect to the new networks. And as you know, there's no killer application in behind that we say, okay, you need for this application a special bandwidth demand. It's in the past we thought about that 4K video services are one of the services which pressures people to use higher bandwidth in the area of gigabit. But for fiber optic itself, there's no need for the customer to change from an existing network to another one. And at the end, the customer is the most important game player for each operator. You cannot operate a network without customers. Therefore, you need the subscription of each customer. On the other hand, One important topic is that we can push forward proactive network maintenance. That's an important topic to have a better quality of experience and quality of service for our customers. And maybe this is one of the killer applications that fiber optics helps us to bring more quality on the networks. And another advantage is that we build right now a new network so that we can implement the most important technology for the back office and for the networks in front of itself. That's an important topic. I think that will be the game changer. And you mentioned it at the beginning that we also have a look on resilience here in Europe. It's an important topic, and networks which can use a better monitoring and a better overview. And I think AI will help us to drive this topic. Then it's good to operate a resilient network with the help of AI and such monitoring tools. And that's an important topic for the customer. In the best case, he get a call from the field service where maybe in the next day something went wrong on your network, and we will fix it before something went wrong.
Whose responsibility is it to have that level of AI insight deployed for the network, right? This market may look different in the EU compared to the States. And, I think those dynamics they're definitely something that the US market is strategizing around, especially as we push to make best use of BEAD funding, which has been a big topic on our podcast, right? And that funding being used to roll out new networks in rural areas or in areas that have underperforming fiber networks. The question of who takes responsibility for the success of the network, right, is a question that, the answer's like everyone really, but you need to get a little bit more specific as you have more hands in this pie taking advantage of the funds, building out new infrastructure, right? So I'm curious what that looks like in the EU, right? As you said, the customer is really the one that's dictating new infrastructure and performance standards. If that AI layer of monitoring and network health is so critical, who's really owning the deployment and the upgrading of systems to include that kind of monitoring, especially to make it customer forward, right? And how should different players who have some responsibility over these ecosystems collaborate to make sure that the end users are getting that kind of experience that they are demanding?
The most important thing is the operator. The operator decides which equipment is used. But we have, on the other hand, the vendors and at the end, the standardization. In standardization, vendors and operators sitting together and defining what's the best for operating a network, and at the end, the best for the customer. And in this ecosystem, we come up with protocols and solutions and using of AI to operate a network. We have also regulation in Europe to increase the cyber resilience, and therefore you need also AI solutions to find out what's abnormal in your network, which behavior is abnormal in your network. And it's a real hard job, as you discussed in your AI Wavelengths podcast. It's not so easy to take all AI solutions on board. You have to take care of the privacy of your customers. It's an important topic. AI can check everything, but is it really wanted that we check everything? We have to focus on the behavior of a network, and for sure some people think to unplug their devices by night to take care of the sustainability and other things. And there the a proactive network maintenance system should give not an alert that something went wrong. It's important that we, industry, vendors, operators, work hand in hand and find the best solution for operating such a network. And for sure, it's every time good to have a standard in place for this technology so that the vendor can build the right device. And on the other hand, it's important with the standards that you find stuff on the operator side to manage the networks. You can bring the best technology in place, and if you have no people running this technology, then you are failed. At the end, it's not a job of an engineer to operate a network. At the end, the engineer has to hand over the operating of a network to people who can manage the network, to normal staff and experts. At the end, for sure, we need people in our industry. This is interested in new technologies and support all these new technologies. Yeah, it's people on the engineer side and people on the practical side using both and is interested in the new technology and is not afraid that AI may kill the job of someone else. AI is a nice guy in your background who helps to make your job better. That's the importance. And if you have a happy customer, for sure, you have a happy operator and you have a safe job at the end. So that is a handshake between industry, operators, and people operating the network. In the most time, it's great when people come up with good ideas, recognizing systems which appear very often, so that they can say, okay, this can be maybe automated by AI. Yeah, and therefore we need a good exchange between all the parties involved in this network. I know it from the past with Cable Labs, when we started the proactive network maintenance in HFC networks. It was important to bring the relevant equipment in the monitoring tools. Therefore, this equipment has to talk with the monitoring platform. And I think that is a real challenge for everybody. And have a look on Wi-Fi services. That's above the fiber optic services. But normally in home, you connect your smartphone via Wi-Fi. And the management of a Wi-Fi network in multi-dwelling units is really important because many people use the same frequency for their Wi-Fi services. And AI will be a good tool to help us to manage these services. One buzzword is managed Wi-Fi services, so that I power down a device, for example, when other devices are talking and my device is not really talking or has network traffic. Or you limit the network traffic if you have only maybe a website connection, then you may give the bandwidth to a streaming service, whatever. There are many tools in place.
Thank you for that insight and that context, Carsten. I want to pivot slightly. I know we're doing a bit of a rapid fire here, but again, we're just looking to get that surface level here for our audience. I want to pivot briefly here to security and resilience, right? And talk shop on this without all of the hype and jargon. Look, this is not unique to the EU or Europe, but in the last several years has definitely flared up. And that's all of the geopolitical challenges that are very nearby in the EU, plus all of the cyber attacks we've been seeing across the continent. There are a lot of challenges here around not only building out a functional high-speed network for consumers, but also a resilient network that knows how to respond to both proactively and reactively some of the potential threats on the horizon. So given the conflict-driven disruption risks in Europe that are a bit unique to the EU, where should resilience be designed into these networks versus layered over networks and kind of given to the operators as the final line of defense, right? I guess walk me through how the EU at large or member states are handling this question of developing secure and resilient and responsive networks that know how to deal with today's cyber threats. What's going well and where there's still some challenges that the market has to sort out?
We have in Europe, on the one hand, the cyber resilience, that's the more technology resilience or security, cyber security. That means that you protect your customers, your network against hacking attacks. That's more a technology attack coming from outside across the globe. You have many places or many IP addresses which are used for hacking, and there we are monitoring what happens in the world so that you don't get a shutdown of your network. The other important topic, and I think this is a little bit special to Europe, that we have also physical resilience. That means we have to protect our data centers, our pop station, whatever, against physical attacks like cutting off the connection cable, whatever. We have the same with the sea cabling in the Baltic Sea. We have some ships from some countries which are detecting where we have the submarine cables, and they like to destroy it. And this is the backbone of Europe at the end. We connected all the European countries to the data centers, like in Germany we have DKIX, is one of the biggest internet exchanges in the world. And it's important that all countries are well connected, and therefore we need also submarine cables. And it's the same that we can do this podcast across the Atlantic. I'm sure that we are using today a fiber optic submarine cable for this one. And there you see the internet community is based on such a physical connection. We cannot do it over the air or via satellites, and there you have also interruption of services if someone like to kill the frequencies. We have it the same with the cabling. Yeah, the cable makes your connection, and we have to protect it. And therefore, in Europe, the operators are forced to protect their equipment against sabotage or against cyber attacks. That's an important topic. Hopefully, it was not too deep, a deep dive. It was a small thing. And Amphenol Broadband, I know it from their equipment, is well prepared in the equipment for physical resilience. That's an important topic. And as I said at the beginning, we build new networks, and there is a good chance to think the resilience in building such a network. That means that you connect one customer or one building with different ways of physical infrastructure. That means you build a second backbone ring, so that you can, if some backbone connection is interrupted, you can switch over to another connection. It's an old thing in telecommunication, but it's in these times more important to think about the physical resilience before you build a network.
All right, Carsten, we've covered quite a bit, and we're not really even scratching the surface. This is truly just a primer. We're going to keep things pretty short today. We're going to try to keep things to about 30 minutes so that we save a lot of meat on the bones for future episodes. But I want to leave you with one last question here. Again, we're going to be doing future episodes with you leading up to ANGA COM to better understand more of the specific nuances shaping the European market. We can dig into each of these lanes we just briefly touched on with again, more detail, but set the table here for, how these dynamics that we've just surfaced on the call are driving the conversations and discussions and keynotes, the showcases that are going to be at ANGA COM next year.
That's a good topic. And I think we will cover the topics we discussed here today. That's the resilience and cybersecurity stuff, because it's a law in Europe, and each operator has to follow the requirements from the policymakers. Another important topic is how to bring fiber services in a good, smooth way or smart way to the customers, how we can connect easily smart the flats of our customers, how we can increase with good solutions, with good technologies, the connection and increase the take rate of the customers. It's an absolutely important topic. And on the other hand, which chance we have to make a better proactive network maintenance, thinking high quality network from the beginning, how we can connect the customers better to pop station or small data centers. Data center is an important topic to bring more bandwidth to the customers. And therefore, we have a good overview about technologies to make the operation of a network better and easier with the advantage for each customer. And it's important to discuss which equipment helps us to make it more profitable for everyone, for the vendors and for the operators. At the end, it makes no sense that the customer has a cheap service and we have no vendor in the background. Someone has to pay the bill at the end, and this are the discussions also on ANGA COM. And ANGA COM, it's one of the biggest trade shows here in Europe. And one important topic is every time, and I love it very much, is the exchange with the people on the show floor, on the discussion panels. So you every time get a new inspiration what you can do in the next step. Very early with proactive network maintenance, with discussing AI, how does it help for operating, and all these things growing slowly up, and right now becomes much more important. For example, in cybersecurity, you have no chance to detect a hacking attack if you don't have a chance to use AI. Yeah, that's the normal NDR, the network detection and response system. You have to cover your complete POP traffic to find some anomalies to detect this is maybe a hacking or not. On the other hand, for sure, it's important what we have to discuss, the proactive network maintenance and making operating a network easier opens more doors for hacking tools. So you have to believe in your stuff, and it's more important that no one uses his iPhone or smartphone for operating a network and doing private gaming, or there's an entrance door for some hackers to find a way in the management area or back office of an operator. That's really important, and it's the end training of the people who engineer such a network. It's really, really important. We need staff who can manage all these new requirements, and therefore it's important that companies like Amphenol support the operators and support the installers with the new technology. And if you give a good overview about what equipment is available, you make your network quite better during installation. On the other hand, it's important we have experience with radar technology to detect service lines under the ground. It's important if you build a new one, not that you destroy existing infrastructure. You have to detect it. And this is also a detection service based on AI services. It will be really, really interesting, and everyone get a kick of his new developments, which can be used in operating their own network.
I'm also excited to see how ANGA COM continues to not only reflect the big trends and conversations that are already driving, improved deployment strategies, upgrade strategies, operator strategies, right, for European fiber, but also how it will set the tone for new developments, right? Oftentimes, these major conferences end up being catalysts for renewed standards and ways of approaching the challenges that face a specific market. So I'm excited to see how ANGA COM sets that flag, and we're going to be leading up to it with future conversations. But Carsten, that is all the time we've got for today's primer here on the European fiber market. Thank you so much for your insights today, your expertise, and I'm looking forward to more. If folks want to get in touch with you, or they want to make sure that they don't miss out on all the lead up to ANGA COM, how can they get in touch?
Oh, that's very easy. You can drop me an email, and also my phone number is well known. You will find it via ANGA, and I'm happy if you have good ideas come up. I'm absolutely happy to learn from the community. At the end, it's like crowdfunding, what we're doing here with the knowledge and technology. We all have to do it together to bring it together. And it was a great pleasure to me to be a part of your well-known podcast. Thank you, Daniel, for all the good things you gave in front of this podcast to me in I'm really happy to support you here, and it's a great fun to stay with you here on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more, Carsten. Thank you again for the time. Folks, go check out ANGA COM. Go check out their website as we lead into their big 2026 show. Even if you're not in the European market, there's so much to learn from how other markets are facing similar challenges and answering the call with unique solutions. So I'll be sure to pick your brain on more. Till then, Carsten Engelke, Director of Technology for ANGA, which is the association behind Europe's largest and most consequential broadband trade show, ANGA COM. Carsten, great to speak with you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, and thank you to Amphenol to make this here happen. It's absolutely great, and it's a good experience, and thank you to all the people in Amphenol supporting us here. Thank you so much.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning into today's episode of the podcast. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You don't want to miss out on our future European market or just general thought leadership, market-moving conversations. I'm your host, Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B. We'll see you on the next episode of Wavelengths. Chat again soon.